everyone, welcome to The Depths Titanfall, fresh from E3 2013. I'm here with Chris and Justin. I'm Rohan. So guys, we're just going to kind of just jump in and talk about Titanfall. I think we all saw it behind closed doors at E3. We saw a full multiplayer match. It wasn't scripted, it wasn't on tape, it was the Respawn team actually playing a full game from start to finish. We saw them warp in at the beginning, play on the field, and then the match actually close at the end. So this was the full experience. I'll just start. I was really impressed with what I saw.
Yeah. If you've seen the what was shown at the Microsoft press conference, it was very, very close to what you saw there, but this was it wasn't a video of the same thing that was aired earlier. It was actually a live presentation of that. So all the mechanics that you saw in that demo on the Microsoft stage is pretty much what we saw. But it was definitely, they were really pushing the fact that it was live. It was, when we walked in, it was just like a theater looking little setup. And then while they were playing, they pulled the curtain back to show that this is really being played. They showed like all these devs actually playing on computers.
I wish they could have. I wish they could have let us in there. It seems like such a shame.
Someone was playing it, right?
But someone was playing. They might have had some. Yeah, they might have had some special circumstances.
I would have loved to have played it myself, but.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible, and it was probably my favorite thing that I saw at the show. I'm a huge shooter fan, and I've played pretty much everything as far as like competitive multiplayer shooters go. And to me, it really feels like the next step in that frantic kind of first person shooter space online. I'm playing Call of Duty, Battlefield now, other competitive multiplayer shooters, and I'm just growing bored. And I think this is kind of a good step in the right direction.
Yeah, is it impossible to say that in an alternate universe after Modern Warfare 2, Titanfall was the game that should have come out?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, but what's great is that if you guys don't know, Respawn Entertainment, a majority of the people that are there are a lot of the old Infinity Ward guys who created Call of Duty. Vince Zampella and Jason West. Jason West isn't there. He's currently on leave right now, but Vince Zampella is running the studio. And these guys have years and years of experience creating, multiplayer shooters. With Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, they changed the landscape for what it meant to play a multiplayer shooter online, especially on a console as well. And it looks like they're going to try to do it again with Titanfall. Justin, how do you feel about it?
I mean, do you think it would be silly to say that, to me, this looks like a little more than Call of Duty with mechs, which I hear a lot of people kind of boil it down to that, but
it's definitely more than that.
What's interesting is we did a interview with one of the guys from Respawn, and did you guys know that there's actually minions or creeps
Yeah, I noticed
in the game?
that,
Yeah, that's something that they really haven't talked about, but yeah, in the multiplayer match, there will be AI-controlled enemy soldiers that you can just shoot for experience to build up your Titan. And that's something Battlefield's not doing, something Call of Duty isn't doing, and it's like a MOBA to some degree.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, during the demonstration, I was definitely picking up on that, but I'm trying to get a sense of how exactly these, AI-controlled minion soldiers actually worked and how the actual gameplay mechanics work. So something I noticed during the demo was one of the players was sneaking into a capture point, like a base, and when he came up the stairs, there was just a guy sitting at like a command center. It didn't seem like it was a player, but he killed that guy, and as soon as he started capturing that base, kind of akin to something like in Battlefield where you're trying to wait for like a bar to fill up, all these little minion soldiers stormed into that command center and started setting up shop. So that was really cool. I noticed like some were sitting in the chairs, some were like getting, starting to stand and type on computers. And I'm like, if that's how the next step to base capture is going to be, like, that's really cool. So instead of just standing on a blip and waiting for a red bar to fill up, you're actually killing the enemy, AI controlled players in a command center and taking it for yourself. And, it adds a little bit more, pacing and a little bit more believability to it. Less gamification.
That's how GameTrailers rolls into E3, essentially. We start killing the enemy troops and just kind of setting up shop, taking over the computer stations, getting our internet set up and whatnot.
Yeah, to that point, I think it's interesting because that it gives you the illusion that there's more people in
Yeah,
the game, right?
definitely.
I mean, what did they say it was? Was it 8 versus 8, or I can't?
I
remember.
never
Now, I wish I
remember.
would have remembered. They
Yeah.
pulled back the curtain and then they closed it
Yeah.
pretty quickly.
It
I tried to
definitely
count.
seemed like there were more than 16
I'm sure there were at
total
least
people.
Right.
yeah, there
for
were
sure.
at least like a dozen or 16 people
yeah.
playing.
So
playing,
but
so.
the impression that I got was that there was always something happening, and I think the inclusion of these minion soldiers really like helps the pace, like you said,
And
of
the
the game.
scale,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it makes you feel like there's a lot more going on at all times, and then you're always building to something.
Yeah, it's at no point did it feel really just like this is a standard death match. I just want to
Yeah,
kill as many guys as I can. There's no, it's not. You're not looking to get kill streaks. It's to me, it seems like a lot more. There are a lot of things that make me say, "Wow, this looks like a really cool action game," rather than, "Oh, this looks like an excellent shooter. It has this and this and these loadouts and whatever." So they mention classes. I'm not exactly sure how it goes, but the fact that when you're on foot, you're able to bust out like a heavy weapon and actually engage these Titans, and the fact that you don't. It's not like Battlefield where you have to run for the vehicles in the beginning, and then you see them driving off. You're like, "Fuck, wait for me!" And oh well, I guess I'm not going to touch a vehicle this match. It's like the constant. Sometimes you're in a mech, sometimes you're trying to kill a mech, sometimes you're riding on the back of the mech, sometimes you own a mech that's not yours and trying to like shoot its brain out so you can eject the pilot. So it's just super dynamic looking, and to me, it doesn't look like just just shooter, just like line up the sights, okay. There's my points, although that does happen. You
Let's
definitely
also-
get
yeah,
points for killing people.
Something else that I'm really happy to see when we saw Titanfall was there's a double jump. Like we haven't had a double jump in an FPS in a more streamlined like popular FPS in a long time. Like the Battlefields, the CODs. I used to play Unreal Tournament religiously, and so having a double jump just
too.
adds. Yeah, no, having a double jump just really adds like a quicker pace that a lot of a lot of PC players are like, oh, COD is so slow, by comparison, and I completely agree.
Yeah, it's true, because when you think back to the days of like Quake 3,
my
Unreal,
gosh, yeah.
Tribes, you have the first person shooter, but it's very quick and it's very fluid, and there's a lot of jumping and verticality to it. And then it was scaled back with Call of Duty. It's more corridor driven. You just go from A to B. Same with Battlefield too. I mean, you don't do a lot of jumping and scaling, but now it seems like they're blending the two worlds together, and you have these really acrobatic soldiers that are able to jump and move very quickly, with the fast-paced spirit of Call of Duty, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, on that note, like in terms of like the actual Titans themselves, do you guys think that definitely during the presentation they were fast moving, they seemed very responsive and fluid whenever you're transitioning from being a pilot into the Titan?
Yeah.
Do you guys agree?
Yeah, the Titans don't really seem like they're lumbering, like slow, like being in a tank in Battlefield or something like that. You're not really that slow. But yeah, it seems like you can maneuver around real fast. You definitely have a sense of power when you're inside of them. But I mean, it's also kind of like, I guess the analogy is like Jack and the Beanstalk, right? Like you're this big thing, but the little dudes can kill you by jumping on your back, and so it's like while you have all this power and you can you have these huge rockets and you're just mowing people down, just one guy can kill you. So I think that dynamic of one person is a threat, so it's like swatting a bunch of poisonous flies. You know what I mean? Like you don't know which one will get you, but someone is eventually going to hop on your back and start doing destroying you.
I also noticed something. I thought that I saw a visual display for how many Titans were deployed on each team, so you can kind of get an idea for like, oh shit, they've got 4 Titans. Does anyone have one ready? And I noticed a lot of times the guys were running around as soldiers. They weren't just deploying their Titan anytime they could, because I guess obviously you can either pilot it or it will follow you around. But they're very vulnerable too, because they kind of stick out. And if you have 3 dudes on the opposite team, you see a Titan, you're probably just going to focus fire on it, from maybe an elevated position because you can do the wall run and the double jump. You can try to get an angle and then open up on it. And the Titans didn't always last quite so long, or you can get your pilot uppercutted out of the thing and then
Railed.
liquidated with a yeah.
So yeah, like
railgun.
like when your Titan goes down, it seems like you can eject yourself out, but you're very vulnerable when you eject yourself out. It seems like a lot of the people are just shooting at the little guy that was coming, falling down in the air or whatever. And yeah, I'm really curious if there's any way that you can like kind of shift yourself while you're in the air instead of just being completely vulnerable for like, those 4 seconds.
Yeah, going back a little bit though, I think the whole strategic nature of having the Titans, having to build them, and then coordinating with your team to figure out when you deploy them,
Like pocketing them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what you said, Justin, I thought was really interesting. It's like you will have to consult with your team and saying, oh, they have no Titans right now. Let's all deploy our Titans and like sweep the map. Or the opposite, let's hold these right now. I think that that's really refreshing and moving away from, the kill streak style, even the Battlefield style of having these, public vehicles that guys kind of fight over and, the guy who gets in the helicopter crashes it immediately.
Yeah.
These Titans are yours. Like, this Titan is mine.
Yeah, it's an option. You're going to be in a Titan at some point in the match, and
It's
you can
great.
decide when you need it,
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's really exciting to see how they're kind of challenging the convention of what it means to play an online first-person shooter competitively. So, any final thoughts, guys, on anything? Where do you guys want to see, from what we didn't see behind closed doors? What do you think is still to be revealed? I mean, you mentioned classes. Do you think classes are going to be a huge part of this? Are they going to have loadouts?
Everyone's a pilot, and the guy I mentioned, I think they said there was a gunslinger and a roughneck, and I'm not sure,
What does
just
that
off
mean?
the top of my
What
head.
does
I know everyone had guns. Guns were being slung. I couldn't tell if one guy's neck was
necks
rougher
were
than
rough,
the other.
yeah.
But man, the pace of the demo though was just insane, and obviously they're trying to put on a good show. And these are, they have skilled players. These guys have all been playing for a while. I wonder if the pace will always be that crazy. It always seemed like there was some kind of objective. Everyone was always concerned about time. At no point were it just like, oh, I guess I'll roam around the map and see if I can get some kills. It doesn't seem like that kind of thing. It seems the action is really focused on the capture points, and something was always happening. The teams were always coordinating. Probably ideal circumstances. I'm sure all these guys are communicating on headsets. But wow, I mean, the pace just seemed really crazy to me. Really dynamic, really fluid.
Absolutely.
My big question coming out of that demo is, what is the grand plan? What is the grand scheme of things that all of this is going to play into? I mean, as amazing as Titanfall, the demonstration for Titanfall was, I mean, what else is there besides the multiplayer? Is there like factions? Is it going to seep into like, what's the persistence level? Is it, like in COD, like you're leveling up, or, there's some, hamster wheel that you're on, right? Like, what is the big scope? I would not be surprised if there is some big element that they're just not even talking about yet. Like, is there a single player campaign?
Every time you level
is it
up,
tied to the multiplayer
your
in
Titan
any way?
gets 1 centimeter taller, and eventually
like
you're-
Knack?
Like Knack. The Knack effect.
The Knack effect, yeah. The Katamari Damacy effect. But
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they didn't have some kind of a progression.
I
or
feel
something
like they're
that.
just showing a
That's
very
basically
little
expected.
bit,
It's
the tip of
expected
the
at this
iceberg,
point.
and they're just going to show what the game is really all about. How big. Like, I have a feeling there's going to be some persistence, and it's going to blow everybody away.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to be, like these two factions warring for resources and kind of domination over these, continents and, these positions globally. If either one of you guys is familiar with Hybrid, the Fifth Cell game, the Xbox.
I played Hybrid for a while.
Yeah,
while
I
it
mean,
was, sustainable.
good game. It had some good. It had some good mechanics, but it's the way that it worked is like you have two sides that are constantly competing over territory. I wonder if they're going to kind of go after the same thing on a bigger scale. I would be interested to see their interpretation of that system.
I'm tired of seeing all this gameplay. I've seen
I know.
30 minutes of demoing. I just want to get my hands on it, but I think it's going to be a while before we
The
do.
live demo, though, I think we could say it's definitely a lot more impressive. Even though the press demo, the press conference showed all the elements, seeing it live really, it just looked way better live. It's like, I believe it. I buy into it.
A fact
I
to
accept
mention
that
was
what they're
that
doing is real.
A fact to mention was that during the live demo, they also were displaying two screens right next to
that's-
each
yeah,
other.
I
So
forgot about
it was really nice to see someone piloting the Titan while the person on the other screen was on his back, kind of buddying up and destroying everybody and jumping off and helping, making sure that nobody else gets on the back of the friendly Titan. So that was a really cool thing to see. It was really hard for me to kind of keep up though, switching between, because I mean it's chaos, right? So it's really hard to watch both screens at the same time. So what I ended up doing was primarily watching one and occasionally glancing at the other. But no, they were really stressing the fact that this is a very team oriented. There's no lone wolfing really going on here. Team. It's beneficial to be a team and play as a team.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I appreciate that this was a live demo. Again, I'll reiterate that. It's so easy for people to just play, a video behind closed doors on a screen and have people watch it, but this was in my opinion, a flawlessly executed live multiplayer match for us, and really impressed. So, all right, guys, that'll do it for this special, The Depths on Titanfall. There's going to be more episodes of The Depths from other E3 games, so keep your eyes open, and we will see you later. Thanks.
It's on the way. Stand by.